Hi, so welcome back to part 2 of my series on modular synths. So if you watched the first part, you'll know I've just started building my first little mini modular, which I think is going to grow and grow. So in the first video, it was really just a little quick introduction. I had all the modules out of the case and talked a little bit about connecting them up and so on. So the next kind of session of videos will get a bit more in depth as to how to actually use the thing and patch stuff into it and so on. So, assuming that you're going to want to use your modular as a synth, in other words, to produce sounds, because obviously you don't have to always produce sounds from them. You could have a little case like this that's just got filters and LFOs and so on, in which case, you know, you're going to use that to affect other instruments. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to assume that we are going to want to make some sound out of it and use it as a synth. So, if you want to make some sound, the first thing you're going to need is an oscillator. Okay, so this is the A1102 VCO made by Dopefer. It's kind of like the basic version of their more expensive VCO, but the oscillator is probably, I think, the most expensive thing in this setup. I think that cost me about £111, I think, and the rest was sort of 60 or 70. So basically, when it's turned on, we get an oscillator sound produced. Let me just sort my cables. Oh, sorry, nearly knocked Mr. Robot down here, just if you're interested. Mr. Robot, an Officer K from Blade Runner 2049. Keeping a watchful eye on me. Right, so this is my output cable. It's going into this mixer here, which you can just about see in the corner of the camera, which is, there's no effects or anything, it's just going straight through the mixer into my audio interface and then being recorded in the computer. So, let's say, if you want to make some sound, you need an oscillator. So this is a VCO, voltage controlled oscillator, analog oscillator. It can often take about 20-25 minutes to get fully warmed up to stay in tune, but I'm not going to worry about that for the purposes of this video. Right, we can have a sawtooth, a square, and triangle wave. Okay, so if I just plug the output, the cable into the output of here, we'll hear the sound. Okay, so that is the sawtooth. Now you've got an octave control here, so we can go down an octave and up an octave, and then we've got a tune, sort of a fine-tune function here. Okay. The other controls and things I'm going to go into in more detail, I think, on other videos. I'm going to keep this one fairly simple for now. So we've also got a square wave with pulse width settings on here, so we can change the width of the square wave. Now, if you're not sure what I'm talking about on those on oscillators and things, go and check out I've got a new video series as well on synthesis. There is one up already at the moment on oscillators, so that'll make a bit more sense if you want to look at those. This dial here is, we can modulate that pulse width by something else, a filter or an LFO. Again, I'm going to cover that in later videos. And we've got a triangle wave, which sounds like this. Okay, so we've got three nice sounding oscillators there. As I understand it, it's the way this oscillator works is it just produces the sawtooth, and then it uses some sort of magical wave shaping thing to create the square and the triangle, apparently. But anyway, so there's no sine wave on this, but that's not a problem. We've got three different waveforms, so we can get a decent amount of sound out of it. So obviously, when it's like that, yeah, brilliant. There's not a lot we can do with it. Yeah, it's just like a constant sound. So what you would need to do, basically what I'm going to cover in this video, is how to get that sound to stop and start when we press a key on a keyboard, and also how to control the pitch. Okay, so there's a couple of things that we need to be able to do that. So, first of all, apart from your oscillator, you're going to need a VCA, okay, because this is going to control sorry, start again. This is going to control, well, it's basically an amplifier. Okay, so it's going to control when the note stops and starts, to start off with. Again, when we get more complicated later on, we can use envelopes and attack and decay and sustain and all of that. But for now, again, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. So, down here, I'm just going to switch over to the other camera, which I'm going to have to hold with one hand because I've run out of stands. Okay, we've got a Microbrute, which is an analog synth, and I'm going to use this as my controller for the modular, okay, because this has CV and gate, which is what we need for our pitch, etc. Okay, so first thing we need to do then is we need to route the audio from the oscillator into the amp. So we're going to take the square, not the square wave, the sawtooth, and we're going to put the audio in. So we've got two audio ins, we're going to go in audio 1. We're going to take the audio out. Okay, now we need to turn this gain up a little bit to be able to hear it. Okay, I'm just going to turn. Okay, and you can control the amount of the signal. This is kind of like the overall gain for the whole thing, and this is the input for that. So I'm going to just turn that input right up, and we'll turn the gain down a little bit. Okay, so we've got nothing different at the moment. It's exactly the same as it was before. We've still got that constant sound. So what we need to do is apply what's called a gate, okay, to the VCA. So a gate works like a normal gate in the real world. Okay, if a gate is shut, nothing can go through it. If a gate is open, stuff can pass through it. So it works the same way with audio. When you plug a gate in, okay, the gate is closed, so no sound will pass through. When we press a key on our keyboard, that opens the gate and that lets the sound through. So to do that, we need to connect up the Microbrute. Okay, so we've got this cable is now coming out of the gate of the Microbrute. Okay, and that is going to go into the CV in here. Okay, so you can hear if I just turn the gain up, we've got the sound of the, let's tune it down a little bit. So we're going to plug the gate in, and we're going to turn the gain right down. Okay, we don't need any gain at the moment. So what happens now if I go back to the Microbrute camera? Okay, so as you can see, as I now press the key on the keyboard, it opens the gate and it lets the sound through. Okay, so we're getting somewhere now. We've not got that constant sound. So yeah, we don't need any gain, because if you take your gain up, oops, it will sort of let some of that, it will kind of amplify the sound and put it through. So you want to have that down at the bottom, down at 0 for now. So, but as you probably noticed, when I play on the keyboard, we've got no pitch control, because at the moment it's just opening and closing the gate. So the pitch control is controlled by this here. Okay, and the way most modular analog synths work is it works on 1 volt per octave. Okay, and that's what most keyboards, analog keyboards, and controllers and so on will send out. I don't want to get too involved and complicated in that because I don't fully understand it, but it works. Basically, every time you go up an octave, it's well, every time you send a voltage message that's 1 volt, so 1 volt might be like C1, 2 volts would be C2, and then the bits in between those would be the notes. Okay, so it gives us pitch. So on the, it depends on the controller that you're using. Sometimes it will be classed as CV out, sometimes it will be pitch. On the Microbrute, it's classed as pitch. Okay, so that's sending out the 1 volt per octave pitch thing, which is round the back. So if I plug that into the back of the Microbrute, okay, so this cable is now coming out of the pitch out at the back of the Microbrute, and we're going to stick that into here, into the 1 volt per octave. Okay, so when I now play on the keyboard, wow, that was high. Sorry. Let's just take it down. Down an octave on here. Okay, we've now got pitch control. So this keyboard can now play the modular synth. Okay, so that's a basic patch of just how to get that bit of, well, not that bit, the control that you need over the stuff in here using the gate and the 1 volt per octave CV connections. Okay, so I'm doing nothing special on here. Everything's turned down. This is just the audio input amount, and that's the kind of like the master output. So you just balance those to how you want them, so you're not distorting and it's not too quiet. And obviously I can then change the octave on the Microbrute, or I could switch down an octave on there. So let's just have a quick listen to the other waveforms. So the square. Okay, and the triangle. Okay, so that's I think all I'm going to cover in this video. I'll try and keep these sort of around about 10 minutes each if I can, but you know what I'm like, I jabber on and on forever. So thanks for watching. I hope that was a use and that makes some sort of sense to you as to how just to create a basic patch and get some control over it with a keyboard. Now if you've not got a keyboard or a controller that will send out CV and gate messages, obviously this is not going to work. Okay, you would need if you've only got like a MIDI controller, you can get MIDI to CV converters, or Arturia do, who make the Microbrute, do they do the Beat Step Pro and Keystep. They all send out CV gate messages. A lot of the new Roland Boutique stuff does as well. I've got the TB03 that sends out CV and gate as well, so I could also use that as a sequencer to control this. So just be aware of, you might need some extra gear to be able to control this if you've not got any CV analog stuff at the moment. So again, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the box below. Check out my music on Spotify if you feel so inclined, because it gives me a few more pennies for me to buy more of this lovely stuff. And then what we'll have a look at in the next video is we'll look a little bit more at controlling the VCA with an envelope, I think, from the Microbrute, so we can kind of start to shape our sound a little bit more. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in part 3.